Hello, James. Got your Solexes, and we're going to do a it's a cold start in that the carburetors have not been started in several days, but I'm not gonna call it a cold start. I'm gonna call it an ambient temperature start, because everything, this is even early in the morning, everything is warm. There's the dirty radiator, even the garage door, and the hood of this car. Everything's the same temperature, including the wood. So this is an ambient temperature start, and it's also a cold start. I'm going to be discussing when the engine's running. These adjustments right here, your idle mixture screw. See if I can point the camera. Idle mixture screw, you're going to screw this one in and out until you get the best idle, in the best running of the engine. This idle mixture screw is a dummy, just leave it alone. The other screw that you get to play with is your idle speed right here. And then also these guys right here, these are the screws and jam nuts that adjust your angle of dangle for your choke cable. And remember, the choke levers go to the middle when you're mounting the carburetors. That's an easy mistake to make, to mount them incorrectly. Now I have these tied together with a twisty because this is your main lever right here for the choke. Over here, this one just flops around, and you have to tie them together so this choke does not flop closed. And what I would suggest is before mounting up your airlog and all your other stuff is to run the car with the airlog off, so you can adjust the carburetors and double check everything. So you just put a wire on the inner fender and run wires like about 6 inches long, and then you take your normal return spring and attach it to here and then over to the wire, so you can operate the car without the airlog in place, and that way you can use the synchrometer to double check your linkage adjustments, which are very critical. Fuel filtration and fuel cleanliness is critical and key on these things. If you don't have clean fuel, you're going to end up with bits of debris in your idle jet, which is right here. And if you cannot get the car to idle, or if it'll rev up, it'll start, it'll rev up as you blip the throttle, but it won't idle. It's because of the idle jet. And all you have to do is, I know this is the wrong size screwdriver, but all you have to do is unscrew this, take it out, and you have a very, very tiny orifice on the end of it that gets clogged up very easily. You won't even be able to see the clog necessarily, but just blow through it and make sure there's no clog in there anymore. And I've upgraded you to G65 idle jets, which seem to help with the miserable fuel we're getting nowadays. And then you just snug it down so it's tight. These are your idle mixture screws. The normal setting for these is to screw them in until they just barely touch, and then back them off 1.5 turns. That's just a baseline. And when I say you screw them in until they just snug up and just to touch a little bit, and then you back them off. Do not crank down on these things. And the harder you crank on them does not mean you get a better adjustment. It means you're going to end up ruining the needle, tapered brass needle, and or the body. So just, if you ever have to mess with these things, screw them in till they just touch, back them off 1.5 turns. But you should not have to do that. They're set now, and then in terms of adjustment, you're going to be adjusting just this small amount like this to adjust to your carburetors, your engine. We want to make these carburetors are tuned to my engine, and then you're going to get to tune them to your engine. Let's see, before we start, let's make sure we got some fuel. Okay, you notice the priming lever has got no resistance, so it means we are on the cam, so we need to bump the engine to get it off the cam so we can get some fuel. See if this will do it. A little bit. Bump it one more time. All right, now maybe you can hear the squishing. We're actually pumping fuel. Where's the camera? I can't see where the camera is. There we go. Damn it. Okay, see, we're pumping fuel. So you gotta make sure you got fuel. So we're going to keep pumping until we get no more resistance. There we go. Now we're getting up to the pump, and it's going up to the carburetors. Now we get no resistance, so we're pumped up. We got plenty of fuel. And then let's go over the mounting and the operation. Let's see, in terms of mounting the carburetors, I'll give you all that instructions, but you're going to use your thick washers and your wave washers and your metal sleeves and get everything mounted up to where they're just loose on here, because then you're going to take your big air log and you're going to get back here a little bit further. You're going to take your air log and you're going to mount that on the loose carburetors. Just jiggle the carburetors around until the air log goes in place, and then I suggest using a couple of nuts to secure the air log to the carburetors, because then you're going to come in and do the final snugging down on the Solexes and get them to where they don't move. Pull your air log off so where you can access the rest of the bolts, snug everything down, and then put your air log back on to double check that it fits, because there's enough movement in the carburetors up and down, left and right, that you can snug them down and then your air log will not fit, and that's going to really frustrate you. So fit the air log first, snug the carburetors down to where they don't move, put the air log back on, pull it off, and then do your final tightening. Another thing that's critical on these is when you're installing the fuel lines, you want to stabilize this fuel fitting in the float bowl cover, and you want to do all your turning right here like this. You just want to make sure this is stable, and then you can undo as necessary, and just make sure you stabilize down here. Otherwise, you take the chance of ruining the threads in the float bowl cover. Do all your linkage adjustments, and you want to make sure that when you undo because you're going to adjust these carburetors independently of each other without your throttle linkage in place. And you want to make sure that when you pop the throttle linkage in place, nothing changes in terms of the idle or the airflow. And that's why you have a turnbuckle right here, so you can dial this in exactly. But in terms of adjusting, you adjust these things when they're warmed up, and then when they are running independently of each other. And what you want to do is hold on to this rod, because this is the only carburetor that's going to not have a return spring on it. This one still has the return spring that you've run over to the fender. So you want to hold on to this so you don't get a runaway engine. Oh, let's see what else we got to discuss here. Choke mechanism. You adjust these to where the choke cable comes in and lines up with these two levers so very nicely, and pulls straight up. Now your choke cable, be sure to check it before you hook it up. Make sure the cable itself from the dash to the engine is free and nicely lubed. And then because you'll notice that when you are choking the car, it's difficult to pull at the dash, and the reason for that is because your cable is going up and down like this, but your levers are coming up in an arc. And then what you're doing is you're actually, you notice, let's see if I can take a look right here. When you move the choke, you see you're moving your throttle right here. Well, that one knob on the dash is pulling the choke levers, and then it's also moving all of the linkage and up to and including at your pedal and against the return spring right over here. So you pulling that one little knob on the dash is doing an awful lot of work, and that's why it's very hard to pull the choke on these cars. You got an awful lot going on. This choke, to have it set properly, there's a little teeny set screw back here that has a clearance of 15 thousandths, and I will set that beforehand for you. But that's once you have these installed, you can't get to that to really adjust it very well. Okay, so we got that taken care of. Starting normally, I might just take like a blip of fuel and ignition on, choke. Alright, that's how they should work, and settle into idle. All do the machine work, and once these things get machined, they're really nice carburetors. So we got to warm these things up, make sure the camera's in position. What we want to do is we're going to check our airflow through the second barrels, make sure there's minimal airflow. Factory would allow, like on this scale here, between 2 and 3 would be a factory setting, so anything below 2 is gravy. And then we use this to check the airflow, to balance the airflow through each throat, and and then we're going to adjust the idle mixture screw, and that's how we do it. So I'm going to rev this thing up, get some temperature. Get a wrench and tighten these up. Of course, that's why I run these things, so I can double check everything, make sure we got no leaks. And these fiber washers will keep packing down, so that's why I test the carburetors extensively. The thermostat is opened up. I'm going to disconnect the carburetors. You may have heard the idle change a little bit because this is not adjusted 100%. What we're going to do now is check our airflow. You can see it just barely moves. 1, 1.5. 1, 1.5. So we're good there. Now we're going to check airflow here. We're running 6. Running 7. So what we're going to do is adjust this one down or the other one up. Depends on your mood. Adjust this one down some more. Oh, I wasn't pulling hard enough. That was my bad. You notice how it changed. I was not pulling hard enough. Alright, so we are at 6, so we're good. We got a nice idle. Now we'll do the idle mixture screws. Let's see, this one's on camera right here. Hang on, I'm going to adjust the camera. Up. Here's our idle mixture screw. So you will be able to hear the change in RPM as I adjust it. Here it's starting to falter. Screw it back in where we started. Put in some more. And you hear our engine faltering dramatically. Screw it back out. We want the best running. And that's how you do that. That's all there is to that. Just the best running. And no backfiring. If it's backfiring, that means it's in too far and you're not giving enough fuel, so you unscrew just a smidge. And that is how you adjust your carburetors, and these are really nice carburetors. And we want to get an idle that you're happy with, and so you just adjust your idle screws here. You adjust them the same. Back that one out, half a turn. Back that one out, half a turn. You can see we drop the idle down dramatically. It's probably around 500 RPM right now. And you check them. So we're down to 4 on this one. And a little bit over 4 on that one. So you can see, well, you screw these in and out the same amount and you can get very close. So let's screw this one back in a smidge. That one back in a smidge. 5, and there's almost 5. Let's do this one just a smidge more. Five there. 5 there. So now we can snap the linkage in place. Didn't change dramatically. There's a nice set of carburetors. Let's try a hot start. Those came out really nice. Let's see, something else I was going to mention. Okay, yeah, this little set screw that's between the carburetors here, I've got it adjusted for you. This guy right down here, and this has a screw that touches on a pin that's attached to the second barrel butterfly. And when you floor the car, the engine, and the vacuum opens up the second barrel, when you let off on the throttle, everything closes and that pin artificially closes the second barrel. And you just want this thing to have almost imperceptible movement between the screw and the counterweight here, and that's set properly. Problem if you screw this down too tight is if you screw this down too much, this will close and then has nowhere to go, and this will start opening up the first barrel and will artificially increase your idle, and you'll try to figure out how to get the idle down when all the problem is you get this little set screws out of adjustment. But it should not go anywhere. It should not need any adjustment, but that I'm just letting you know just in case. Let's try another start. Got some really nice carburetors for you. Thank you for your patience, waiting for me to get these done for you. Thank you.